Well, hello. Welcome to Life Empowered Podcast, where today I get the privilege of having a great conversation with Suzanne. And Suzanne, you have had so many different experiences throughout your journey so far, and you probably will have some more, right?
For
Um,
sure.
so we're just going to touch on a few of those today to help others connect with you and hopefully see what it was that helped you pull through and to get where you are today. So thanks so much for joining us, Suzanne.
You're welcome.
So Suzanne, where should we start today? Where do you want to start with one of your biggest struggles of your life that you've gone through and that you've overcome? Where should we start?
I I think we should start when I was a young child. When I was about 6 years old, and I did not have a father in my life. And fathers fathers that I knew were abusive. It started, like I said, at 6 years old when I was sexually abused by a friend's father who was a
Mm.
neighbor. I had a hard time understanding um, why, and then it's happened several times throughout my life. It happened again when my mother's boyfriend. She was a single mom, so I was about 9 years old, and then my mom remarried, and it happened again by my stepfather when I was about 12 years old. So these were the father figures in my life. In between that time, I did meet Jesus. I Another neighbor who had a daughter about my age. She um, s- invited me to vacation Bible school that she held at her home back then, so the kids in the neighborhood went. I She also brought me to Pioneer Girls, which was at her church. I became involved with that. They picked me up uh, every week for that, and made sure that they told me that Jesus loved me. I first became saved when attending Pioneer Girls through this couple, this mom and dad, that I was able to see a wonderful father figure in him. Um,
Mm.
so I asked Jesus in my heart. I was probably about 10 years old.
A few things I want to dig in there. So at first, what you said, fathers, but really in reality, it seems like men overwhelmingly, these men in your life were using you for other ways than typically men should use or
Yes.
relate to young girls. How did you know or begin to question or wonder? What did a little bit of that look like?
I think it when I was a young adult.
Okay.
Um, and I was going through, I sought out counseling and talked to somebody about it, and then started to really to process it and break it down, and then look at my life, what happened after that, how it affected me. I was very promiscuous at a young age. I was pregnant at 14, had a baby at 15. Um, I did not like myself. I was To me, I was not beautiful. I was fat. I was ugly. Um, I didn't feel like I could be loved. So all those things affected me. In between, I knew Jesus was there. I connect a loving God to abuse. I questioned why.
Right. And so for others who may not have the similar experiences but trying to understand, what it was for you, obviously what I was explaining and what you've explained is when you're a kid, you don't see it necessarily as wrong. You just see it as this is normal for you. This is how men are with you. And you may not like it, but you don't know what to do about it because as a kid you don't know how to process that. You don't know what's supposed to be because the adults are supposed to be caring for you what's supposed to
Yes.
be. And obviously, as you've explained, the struggles that directly related to those abuses and those relationships with men, they weren't making you feel loved. And they weren't doing it out of love, hence why you didn't feel loved. You felt used, even though you couldn't explain it, you couldn't process it. You were being used for their purposes and very selfish purposes, and they weren't caring for you. They weren't seeing you as a precious little girl that needed protection and direction and strength. They saw you as something to use. And also the significance for some who may not understand, how could this happen over and over to one person when it didn't happen to me? Some people could say, but
Mhm.
that's the horrid extra piece about abuse is once you experience a type of abuse, especially the sexual abuse, there is something that connects with others, and people can see it in you, can see how you are easily manipulated and easily um, led to do what they want you to do when they're
Mhm.
looking, when they're out. The people who are out there to use and abuse people, they know what they're looking for. They see signs in that person that makes them look like a target, someone they can use. And so that is why usually once you've experienced sexual abuse, it's not just one time, it's over and over and over, because the others are out hunting and looking for those signs and find you and use you in that same way. And then I want to touch on one other spot that you talked about that some people may not have understanding. So, as a child, you said you met Jesus and you were saved. Well, what were you saved from? Because now you've already hinted at, as your life progressed, it didn't get better. There was many other struggles heaped upon other struggles, being a single parent, being promiscuous. So, when you say you were saved as a child, what do you mean by that?
I felt as a little girl thinking back, when I asked Jesus into my heart, it was it was so special. It was like I finally had something that was all mine that I could go to in my head. I remember talking to Jesus, are you still there? Just a conversation as I got older. Of course, then I developed a more of a personal relationship and I understood more. But just having that and always with me, it was just so special.
I love that's a beautiful description of what you meant by that and what you experienced and why it really meant something to you. It wasn't something you just did because adults said to do it. It was something you experienced personally and obviously became real. And, that's a really important piece for many people who do consider themselves Christians and or are new Christians. And so many times some people get this mixed belief that, well, if you become a Christian, then everything's supposed to be good, and Jesus wipes away all the dirt and the mire. And he does in many ways, but not necessarily instantaneously, because he has a plan and a purpose to use those things that may experienced, or we have put ourselves through either of those things, to lead us, to stretch us and grow us, to become wiser and stronger and understand more, and possibly even then using that experience and that knowledge and wisdom to help others. And so I can totally relate, because my story of abuse and neglect and all of that, I met Jesus at a young age too, and I was probably 11, 12. And then I believe around 12, 13 is I know for sure that I accepted Jesus and I loved him, and I felt that too, that he was real. He loves me. I am loved. Though I struggled with feeling so alone, still so rejected, because those things were still very real in my life and they didn't go away. And then again, I made lots of bad choices as I
Yeah.
grew, because I
Yeah.
had these two parts of me that didn't go together. And I, as a child, and even as a young adult, still learning how to make sense of it, and how do I get rid of the stuff I don't want and go after the stuff I really do want. And that's such a journey, right? There are so many pieces, but so in that, so you start out with so much pain, so much struggle, obviously beating you down, making you not see how beautiful and unique and valued you were created to be. But yet you had this piece of hope of something real that you continue to journey and figure out as well as you grew. So when did you start to break free of some of those lies and really the bondage of the sin, the bondage of what people had done to you? How did you begin to break free from some of those things?
It was a long journey. It was just little by little. I would take a a couple steps forward and more steps back. I married somebody who I thought was a Christian man when I was um, barely 19 years old.
Mm,
He was very, very controlling and abusive. So I was in that relationship, that marriage for 10 years. I had my daughter that I had prior to the marriage. She was 3 years old when I married him, and then I had another child with him. So I was forced to go to church. I was, and when things aren't done in love, it's you don't want to do it. You rebel. I was very, very unhappy. I uh, I think I started feeling worse about myself, as an adult then. Um, Ended up where I was able to break free. We were even living in a different state. I was living in New York, Syracuse, New York, with him during this time, so I didn't have family to help me. Anyone there. I was by myself, and being so young and naive and just very easily influenced. So I ended up freeing from that marriage and moving back to Wisconsin, and I was alone for many years, 13 years or so. I mean, I'm still. I- It was difficult for me because emotionally I was still so very immature. I Right after the marriage, I started um, going out and partying, and I met people. I started doing drugs. I was using cocaine. Cocaine gave me that fake confidence. I felt beautiful. I felt I could
mm,
do anything. I could talk. I wasn't that shy girl um, that I was around people. And it took around that time, that was about 3 years or so, and it took me almost losing my children and losing my career. I was a nurse. I'm retired
mm.
right now, but I was went to nursing school when I lived in New York, and I worked as a nurse for many years. I almost lost my career, almost lost my children. At that time, I think is when I really cried out to the Lord to help me, just help me, please, God. I don't want to live like this. And he showed up. He showed up. He was right there for me. I should have went to. If there was a time where I should have went to prison. I I spent a couple months in jail. I had I had people in my life that helped me, that believed in me, that spoke love into me, and I think that was the turning point when I really wanted God right there with me, and not just during the bad times, because I was all those years I would backslide, and I would cry out to God, and he would show up. He would help me, and then I would go right back to things I was doing before, and then cry out to God again. And I think he was really, trying to just fine tune me, and he's still doing that. He's still doing that. I he's he's just been so good to me. I have I'm married now. I've been married for 20 years to a wonderful man, a wonderful man. I had my two daughters. One is in heaven. She passed away 12 years ago. And I have a stepdaughter. I have six grandchildren and three great grandchildren. I just I'm seeking these last I would say maybe 5 years, I've just been seeking the Lord. I'm just growing stronger by the day in dealing with those demons from my past. So when it was that slow little bits and pieces process that got me where I am today. I'm 61 years old, and I can't say I'm there because we're never there, but I'm
Oh.
just I'm really working on that nitty gritty stuff that's just been heavy on me
Mhm,
all these years from the time I
mhm,
was that little girl,
mhm,
and that little girl is still in here.
mhm.
And I'm I'm working on trying to see myself as a beautiful woman that God loves.
Yes, yes, and yes, you are. Um, Thank you again for sharing that struggle. And sometimes it, even on the outside, looking in at other people's struggles, it's like, why? Why is it so hard? Why does it take so long? But we all have different personalities. We all have different ways of handling struggles and issues that come up in our life. And so there is no one way, or here's the path for you to get it straight and change your life, because there are so many pieces that we are so complex. As I
Yes.
talk about, we have our physical, we have our mental, our emotional, our relational, our spiritual. These are all huge major pieces of who we are, and yet they're separate, yet they're all interconnected. And when you talk about sexual abuse, that affects every single one of those areas, on top of the other things and the other choices, causing more confusion and more lies. In it's subconscious, we have so much that goes on in our subconscious that we don't pay attention to a lot of it, or things have to be really really bad where we start to see it, or really really slow. And again, slowing down is usually a hard thing for many people to do. And keeping busy or on drugs, again, is a distraction to kind of numb and hide and survive, right? So we
Mhm.
have different ways that we cope to survive. Some people have worked and just dove into work and been successful in work for years, never drugs, never nothing, and doing work, but still no life, no connection, no nothing. And then they crash and fall apart because that was their coping. You had drugs and other things that you ran to cope and try to survive, because knowing Jesus gave you that hope and gave you somewhere to go, but you still had to make sense of this past and do something with it. There isn't this mentality of just forget it and move on, which so many people really do grab a hold of that. And even in not severe things, that is never the wisest thing to do. You need to gain truth and go back and look at what the struggle was, what the hurt was, to sort it out, to make sense so that you don't repeat it, or so that you don't do something similar again. So you can, just like you said, you keep crying out to God multiple times, but then going right back. Well, because you hasn't changed the way you process, you hadn't changed the way you did things. You just like, I need you,
Mhm.
but now what? How do I live my daily life with you? And that is a personal journey. That is, God knows our hearts, and he knew you, and he could have not helped you because, well, you weren't going to do it right after. So why should I help? Right? That would be the human response. I'm not
Right.
helping you because you still don't have it together. Just go. Wait till you're, drowning on, or, on your face. Then maybe I'll, help you. But that's not what God does. He wants to remind you that he still loves you. He's still there, even when you keep falling on your face, even when you keep making mistakes. Um,
Yes.
and that is why I love him so much.
Yes.
I have
Yes.
felt like such a failure for so much of my life, always so angry and disappointed. But he continually shows up and
Yes.
meets me, and what that means is I know his presence, and it isn't made up in my head because I don't got it. It isn't there. I'm on the other side, and he meets me and draws me in, and I feel his love. I know he's there for me. I don't understand it because I could never deserve it. I have made so many wrong choices. I have not been obedient. I have not done what I know I should do. He continually shows up, even though I continually make mistakes. So that is why his love is so awesome. And we don't deserve it. His grace and his mercy continue to overwhelm me the more I know him, the more I see him in my own life and in others' lives. And that's why I love having these conversations to, again, be reminded that, yeah, you had all this happen to you and it wasn't fair and it wasn't right and you didn't deserve it because you were a beautiful, precious little girl. But
Yes.
God is still was going after you. He's like, it's not over, honey. I'm still here. You are still valuable. You are not junk. You are still worthy, no matter what's been done to you, no matter what you've done. And the only way we get to make those changes is usually with the help of other people. And you did mention you were kind of at, okay, this part is worse. I might lose my kids and my career. Then I really, really have nothing. Right. And then you
Right.
said some people were there to help you, support you. And, people, just as in the beginning of your story, are some of the biggest causes of your pain and your suffering. Yet then there's others that God will bring in your life that will be supportive and help you, and maybe it's just a season, it's not forever, but he will bring people at the right moment to come alongside us, to stand with us, to support us, to encourage us. And as I often say, people, you can't live with them and you can't live without them, but we're just like them. We're the ones that
Yes.
have let others down as well. We don't always do what we should do, or, because we're selfish and only thinking of ourselves. Life is messy. No matter how bad it was or how good it was, life is still messy. And Jesus continues to give us that hope to fight for something more, to give us hope to fight for, to not give up, to not
Mhm.
just go drown yourself and go away, but to look for something, because he makes you feel like there is something more, that he could give you more. And obviously, the beauty continues to unfold for you. You have experienced a beautiful marriage, and I'm sure it's not been perfect, right?
Right. Right.
Because again, you weren't all patched up and perfect and beautiful, and he probably didn't come all packaged perfect as well. But yet, the uniqueness and the beauty of how we created marriage too, to support one another, to grow with one another. And obviously there's certain things that need to be there to make that happen. And now grandchildren, how many beautiful gifts you are seeing in your life because you didn't give up, and that Jesus continue to lead you and grow you and stretch you, though it's not been easy. I'm sure none of it has been easy. But sometimes, like I said, a lot of things God makes us walk through to help us grow and learn and understand. Because if he just wiped away everything, we wouldn't know, and we'd probably still do a lot of the wrong things and hurtful things and cause more problems that you'd want him to wipe away. Sometimes he says, you know what, this I'm going to wipe away. This I'm just going to clear the slate. And that's what we call miracles. Though most of the things you've had to struggle through and work through, process, perseverance, and faith and struggle, you've also experienced a miracle as well, correct?
I have, yes. There's a couple really huge things that stand out in my life as a miracle. Um, it was, oh gosh, only in the early, maybe 1991 or so, is when I was telling that people were bringing, God brought people into my life. Well, there was a couple that he brought into my life when I was going through all those problems and almost lost everything. I had to go to a like a counseling. I was like a forced counseling, drug and alcohol counseling. So I went to this couple. They owned a counseling group, and they were partnered with a state, and the name of it was Agape Recovery. So they were Christians, and they mentored me. It was Russell and Trisha. Trisha's husband, his name was Russell. He was a pastor as well. I was baptized. I was baptized in Lake Geneva. And I went into the water, a 2.5 pack a day smoker. This was like right after I had stopped using drugs, but I had still was hanging on to those cigarettes. I came out of the water, never craved, never had another cigarette again. I mean, it was gone. There was no desire ever. So that was huge.
Well, I'll stop there before we go to the next one. Is just so that others that may not understand. So you were getting baptized. Now, some people know that little kids get baptized, but why were you getting baptized as an adult?
I kind of call it like I dedicated myself, my life to the Lord by being baptized, by being immersed in the water as an adult, knowing I knew what I was doing. As an infant, you're sprinkled.
Mhm.
You don't intentionally do that. You don't know what you're doing.
Right. And
So I
in the New Testament, that's what they did. It was a choosing to say, I'm taking a new direction in my life. I'm having a new purpose. So I'm going to die by going under the water to the old life and
yes,
come back as a new life. And when you did that, were you asking to God to take away this desire of smoking, or did God just do that all on his own?
I asked him.
You did ask.
Yeah.
And then,
Hmm.
and so you asked and he delivered. So
Yes.
that's sweet. Awesome.
Yep.
So you led us to believe that there's others.
And then I had an eating disorder. I was a heavy child. I always food was my comfort. When I was about 18, I was quite heavy. I was probably maybe 250, 260. And I was just eating to comfort myself. Um, I started to diets and to try to lose weight. And then I started, um, I didn't even know that it had a name when I started throwing up my food. It's bulimia. So I did that for years until it was into my 50s. And it was just something that I hid from everybody. Nobody knew.
Hmm.
Um, I, and it was hard. It was difficult. Um, and one day I was going to be going on a vacation with a friend, and her and I we were going to be going to Georgia to visit her family. She asked me to come along with her, and I just was thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to hide this if I'm living or staying with her in these close quarters? And it was I was scared. I didn't know what to do because I had to do this. Um, I remember I was standing in my bathroom, and then I just said, God, God, you have to help me, please. Just once and for all, please, please, I need to stop doing this. I begged for him to heal me. I got down on my knees in my bathroom and cried. And I had never done that before. It was always something I think I even tried to hide from God because I was so ashamed and so embarrassed.
Hmm.
Completely gone. Completely. I am healed. And that's just I think of that daily and just can't even believe it.
Wow.
Can't even believe it. It's
And it took
still
you to just sit there and ask. God knew it was a problem. Obviously, we can't hide anything from him. But like you
right.
said, how how authentic and real for you to share that you were in a way feeling you could hide that from him because you didn't know what to do about it. It was such a stronghold of coping for you. But all you had to do is stop and say, okay, enough's enough. God, I need you to help me. And he decided that this would not be a long journey for you like other things, and he wiped it away.
Yes.
How amazing is he? How beautiful and sweet and kind and gentle is he, that he loves us so much, that he loves you so much that he did that. And sometimes people, we don't see as much healing or things because we don't ask,
Hmm.
because he wants us to trust him in all things. That's his biggest thing, to really see him as who he is, the God over all, our creator and our father. And if we will just trust him in everything, it says if we seek him first, his kingdom, his ways, his righteousness, his goodness first, then all the other things that we need, he will give us. Now, he doesn't say that he gives them to us instantaneously, but he'll give them. And so he's been giving you pieces throughout your journey and these beautiful miracles as well, because wow, that is awesome. Thank you so much.
And and the funny thing is that after that was gone, I started eating normally, and my body just adjusted, and I'm healthy. I'm at a good weight. It's not all that time just depriving myself and doing what I was doing, and well, here I am.
Wow.
I'm feeling
So that's
really
beyond,
good.
so what you're explaining is that's beyond just making you stop throwing up and eating. It's also the repercussions and the other issues that you could have in trying to stop, and health issues because of what you did. He
Right?
took all that too. So it wasn't
Yes.
just stopping you from doing it. He took care of the whole package related to it and made you well.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. He is so good. What, in your words, what would you say um, were the main three things that helped you to be where you are today?
I mean, seeking the Lord on a daily basis, having a conversation with Him continuously, forgiving myself when
Mm,
I fall short, when I do things. That's
that's good.
not holding on to that.
Mhm.
And just knowing that I am human and I do make mistakes, and God is there for me. God is there for me to he lets me know, he's holding his hand, holding my hand. He's there, and I need that. I A couple of years ago I was praying, and in my prayer I was kind of questioning God, where were you in my life at these times?
Mm,
And I had a visual where he was telling me, I was here. I was here. I was here. I was here. And the pictures of me, pictures of that 6-year-old little girl, a picture of me asking Jesus into my heart, all the good things and all the bad things. He was there with every single one of them. I was not alone.
mm. Oh, I am so glad that you brought that up, because that's important, because that's real. That's part of it. Why did I have to go through this? Where were you? Why didn't you stop it? Yes, we
Yes.
still wish he would have stopped it. But again, there are so many things above us. And also that's a whole nother deep conversation. But the reality that you do ask, that in part of that journey is you want to know, and you got to show me. And I love how every person that has struggled deep abuse goes there. Well, if you're real, God, then where were you? And everyone, he has shown them where he was, and much in visual ways, like in your pictures in your head to show you, or bring up these instances in your head to say, show you. So he
Yeah.
communicates with us. It's not, some people say they hear him sometimes, and most people don't audibly hear. But obviously, again, we've got this very complex, crazy brain, subconscious, our spirit, and he communicates. So he communicated with you, giving you these visuals to show you I was with you. And he is so good and so beautiful and honest in meeting us where we're at. And when we ask, and we really ask for understanding and answers, he gives us something. He gives us his answers. He gives us his direction, and he meets us there.
It does.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much, Suzanne. There's so much in your story, and obviously we could talk and go deeper, diving in some of those different areas. But anyhow, thank you so much for sharing those pieces of your journey and of your life. And I am so thankful that you are blessed, that you are free and continually breaking free from the lies about you and where you are and who you are, and to have those gifts that he's given, and precious grandchildren, and good relationships to remind you that you're loved. And thank you so much. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. I have an email that will be in the podcast notes. If you have any questions or even have prayer requests, please reach out to me, Krista, at Redeem and Restore Center.
Thank you, Krista.